spreadsheets that you'll have for your project one. But I kind of wanted to go back and look at this problem from chapter 4 because nobody got it right. And I know it's kind of a lengthy problem that requires some detail and everything. There's nothing in it that's terribly difficult, other than really getting everything in order. And I think that's important, and I think that'll be important as you go forward with other assignments. And so I just kind of want to go through it and make sure. Now, this is a nice way to set it up, and this is how this one's already set up. Put your variables kind of in this case, up here where they're labeled. You got them right. You know what the stuff is, okay? Then I'm gonna let me get rid of this instead of. I think I can do hopefully. Maybe not. That, and then we'll try to. I think I'll hide this too. We'll try to rebuild this and just kind of show you. So, goes through it. It talks about right. They're going to maintain an ending inventory 1.5 times what their projected sales are, or a beginning inventory of that month would be 1.5 times what their projected sales are for that particular month, right? Okay. We know what our labor cost is, our material cost, those kinds of things are outlined for us. But the first thing that we need to do then is we got to do it. It tells us a production schedule and then a summary of cash payments for each particular month. So we want to go through, and we don't necessarily need this one here, but I'm going to put it up here. Sometimes you can do this kind of. We got to go to June, right? Everybody see how I did that? Just sometimes if you got a series that's a regular series, you get the first two going, then you just hit your copy at cells and it'll keep that series going. That'll be kind of important as we do long lists later on when you go down. If you start 1, 2, then you can just highlight the 1 and 2 and drag it down, and it'll keep going 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So you don't have to sit there and put it in every single field. So we want to put in each month, we want to figure out what our production needs to be, right? Okay. And to do that, okay, we got to, let's see, they're maintaining ending inventory for each month in the amount of 1.5 times the expected sales in the following month. So the ending inventory for February or March's beginning inventory reflects this policy, okay? And we know what our sales are going to be, so we can kind of do this in different orders, but let's go ahead and do sales for each month, right? February we don't worry about, but March, okay, we can just put an equals to that. April, we can just put an equals to that. May is equal to that. June is equal to that. And I like to link cells like that. In this case, I don't think it's really going to matter too much, but I kind of like to link them together. And again, as we go further on in the class, you're going to see where that becomes really important, having those cells kind of linked together when we can. Okay, so we know we're going to need 5,000 units because that's going to be our sales, right? But we also are going to need our desired ending inventory, right? And the desired ending inventory for March is going to be, or starting inventory for April, is going to be 1.5 times what our expected sales are here, right? Okay. So I can just put in here, this is equal to 1.5 times this number here. Boom. Now, this will just drag down and it should be correct, okay? The references move with me, and so that's kinda nice, right? Okay, so, total, you can label this whatever, I'm gonna call it needed inventory, that's probably not a good number, but I also like to make these look nice, so I come up and put my little line below it. Then I just wanna hit the sum of those, right? And once again, it does that, and then if I grab this little box down here in the bottom right-hand corner, I can carry that over, and away we go. Okay? But, what do I subtract out of there? My starting inventory then, right? Because I start with an inventory, and my starting inventory is equal to really 1.5 times what my expected sales are for that month, so instead of using the equal in this case, I'm just gonna use the minus sign, minus 1.5 times my expected sales. I get that, right? Okay, again, I can carry that. Okay, I can put a little line under that. I can do the sum thing again. I just want those two numbers. Go, right? That should be my needed production then. Okay? Looks right. Production. Okay? So now I'm doing a cash thing now. I want to figure out what stuff's gonna cost, right, in each particular month. And so I can kind of, let's do this. Just copy, keep the labels down here. So I got the labels again. Well, I start with my production, what I'm gonna need to produce each month, right? Okay. Again, I'll just copy these and paste them right down here. Okay, well, that didn't work so good. Let's try that again. Oops. Yeah, so we'll do copy. It gives you different paste options, and so sometimes you gotta look at that. I wanna do this one, maybe. Okay, that just pastes the values, it doesn't paste the formulas or anything, and so that's good. If you tried to paste the formulas, the references would be goofed up, so let's do that one, okay? But I also produced 8,000 units in February, and I might need that. I'm not sure, but I might need that, right? Okay, so we'll just do production. Okay. So then I got my various costs, right? Labor costs, let's say. So I'm not worried about February because February is not a required answer. But if I go up here, labor costs are $3. I got a little notepad back here, which is kind of nice. It's paid in the month that the labor occurs. And that's per unit. So my labor cost is simply then going to be equal to 3 times whatever my production is for that particular thing, right? Once again, I can just, okay. My material costs then, they're a little bit different, right? Material costs are $7 paid 1 month after production, and so, I don't have to pay my suppliers till after 30 days, basically, is what it's saying, and so my material cost, my $7, is based on what my production was the prior month. So in that case, this is equal to my $7 times my prior month's production. That's why I had to put the February in there. Okay. Oh, something went wrong. What went wrong? My reference changed. Okay, I goofed up, so I need to put that in there. My reference here is the material cost up here, which is C17. Quick little shortcut here for you. So if I come up and I click right behind that C17 and I hit my F4 button at the very top of my keyboard, okay, watch what happens. puts dollar signs in front of both the C and the 17, okay? What that's gonna do then is it's gonna keep that particular cell reference constant. Okay, so now I should be able to drag this over. It'll move the other cell reference because I didn't put dollar signs on that. So that other cell reference moves right along. And that's a nice trick to learn. You guys hopefully, or not hopefully, you should use that often during the course of the semester. Okay? We change these to dollar signs just because.
So I have a similar formula, I didn't use the dollar sign,
Yep,
but Excel is wrong.
Excel's never wrong. I'll come
Because
and,
I literally just did the formula by, on, say for April, where it should be, you have, whatever it is,
yeah,
way down, technically,
oh,
okay, so you,
yep,
okay, so my reference is so equals to B16, which is my material,
okay,
times the production of the month before,
okay.
and
Come and look at it. We'll figure it out. What else do I got? I got fixed overhead then too, right? That's 10 grand. I can start wherever, doesn't matter. Don't really need it in February, but. Yep, I'll need that in June too. And then I also have a dividend, right, payable in May. That's 14,000. I think I kind of have everything then, don't I? Now I just have to total what my costs are. Be careful not to include my unit production. And I should have even labeled that up here. Production in units, right? Because I don't want to include that in my total down here. So I hit my sum. See, that's capturing that units, and I don't want that. I just want those three. I want the 4 because I'll need that dividend one later. Do that. Drag that out. Everybody kind of follow along then. Just again, how important it is to set these things up, you know, really precisely. Take your time, read the problems, do all that. Watch the videos that I've provided for each particular problem, right? Okay. And follow those things. And hopefully, again, I'll try to show you some of these shortcuts as we go along. Excel does so much. This one takes some time, and you got to set it up. As we go along, there's going to be some problems where Excel just does all the work for you. You just got to kind of hit a button, and boom, there you are. So, okay, any questions about that one? Okay. Let's see. Don't save. Let me go back to the project one, and we'll take a look at the next piece. I think is, do I got payroll and operating expenses? You got that up? You can tell me. Is that what's due next for just the payroll? Or is it payroll and operating expenses?
it just says payroll, and I don't see any operating expense.
Okay.
Well, it says total salaries and related expenses.
Okay. Let me look at that payroll and operating, okay, yeah. So that's what we wanna hit then, is payroll and operating expenses today, talk about those briefly. Again, this is a case where most of the work's done for you, right? You can see there's orange boxes up here in the first year payroll, and these are the only ones you will probably need to enter, okay? Some of you, if you have a seasonal, okay, if you have a seasonal operation or a seasonal business, you may have to end up making some changes out here, right? Because when I enter in some payroll numbers here, okay, it's gonna put them all across the full year. And if you're seasonal, you might only hire people in the summer or maybe in the winter. You know, if you're running a ski hill or something, you'd only have a few months, right, in the winter that you'd have employees. So you might have to then go and make some changes there in these gold boxes. Okay, number one, owner. Make sure you leave that blank. Okay, let me repeat this about 4 times because no matter how many times I repeat it, I get people that put things in the owners, okay? Leave that blank, okay? You as the owner do not get paid because it's a good question, okay? Why doesn't the owner get paid? Because it is extremely unlikely that any of you would form a business as a C corporation, okay? So if you're not a C corporation, then all the tax liability or tax benefits flow through to you as the owner. Okay, they're called pass-through entities or flow-through entities, whichever you want to call them is fine. Okay, so you're going to pay taxes if this business is profitable. You're going to pay taxes on the full amount of the profit. Well, how do you get paid if you want to get paid? You'll get paid when we get to the cash flow, and there's something called owner's distribution. Okay, why does that matter? Well, the point here is that, and this is the case whether you're a partnership, sole proprietorship, LLC, or an S corporation, or an LP or an LLP, okay? Doesn't matter how much money you take out of the business, what matters is the profitability of the business for tax purposes. What you take out of the business is certainly going to affect your cash flow, okay? And so that's an important consideration, okay? But again, unless you're a C corporation, and judging from the businesses that you guys all selected, nobody is probably gonna form a C corporation, okay? You don't wanna form a C corporation because then you'd pay double taxes, right? And so, leave that blank. Got it? Thanks.
No, I don't got it. Because I should pay myself as an employee so that I get routine wages so that
Yeah, you'll pay yourself on the cash flow.
every month.
Yep, show you. Go, click down here to the cash flow.
And have the business meeting at lunch.
See this line number 25 on the cash flow? Owner's distribution.
So wouldn't my wages, if we did it upfront as an employee, wouldn't my wages count as an expense against the business, therefore not paying taxes on it?
It would, and if you were a C corporation, that would be nice, but you're gonna pay, again, why would you pay those taxes, okay, and go through all that hassle
My
of,
payroll is an expense.
okay,
Am I not accurate?
well, you're gonna pay the taxes regardless.
Understood.
Yeah, so it doesn't matter.
I just thought I would get a weekly paycheck rather than wait till.
You're gonna get a weekly paycheck. You just do that in the cash flow, okay? No, it's, believe me, that's how it happens, so. That's how sole proprietorships, LLCs, partnerships, and all those, that's how it's accounted for, okay? Huh? You're still gonna, because if the business makes 100,000, but you only take 50,000 out, what do you have to pay taxes on? No, you gotta pay taxes on 100,000, because that's the profit of the business. Yeah. So if you,
But if I paid myself.
if
I
you
paid
paid
my-
yourself 50,000, then guess what?
$12 an hour for 2,000 hours is just 45.
Except you got withholding on the other 20-some thousand, so, yeah,
I have
that's,
withholding on it anyway.
yeah, not, not on the cash.
Because you have to pay, because you have to pay Social Security.
You gotta pay Social Security, Medicare. You'll pay-
As a self-employed person,
Yep.
which I gotta pay 33%.
And you're gonna pay that on the $100,000, no matter how much you take out. Okay, that doesn't matter how much you take out, you're gonna pay, It is awful, but that's a debate for another time or place. We're just talking about how you account for these things now, okay? I think I said I would like every one of you, no matter how small your business is, to maybe show one employee, just so it can be on here, right? That could just be one part-time, okay? Or it can be a full-time or a part-time, that's fine, okay? So I'll just do a part-time employee. Let's say I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna have one part-time employee. I'm gonna pay them $15 an hour. And find you all kinds of part-time jobs at $15 an hour. Just say the word. Walmart, yeah,
Starts at 15 bucks.
yeah. Oh, why not? Yeah. Night stocking. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Oh, my son's buddy's working out there. Yeah, he's making close to $20. So.
They're like, I've done it. Hard rather than 15 bucks an hour.
So there you go. Okay. So we're paying that one part-time person $15 an hour. They're working 20 hours a week, so this is how much per month. You know, it kind of breaks it down for me. It's kind of nice. One thing you got to add, and everybody's got to do this one too. So in addition to not having any owners, please come down and do this. You can do this while we're talking. See where it says workers' compensation? If you have an employee, you have to pay workers' compensation. There are no jobs that are zero workers' comp, okay? The variance on your workers' comp is how dangerous your business is. If you're gonna be a roofing contractor and have a part-time helper, you're probably gonna pay about 100%. Yeah, okay? If you're a logger and you're paying help, okay? That's why there's all kinds of independent contractors that do like roofing and logging, just individuals, because they can't afford and so you have a main contractor and they'll subcontract with these guys that go out so they don't have to pay that 100% workers' comp on dangerous occupations, right? Yeah,
So
yeah.
what would we put in, because I know that even for our office, our driver.
Right, right, right. And so in this case, I just want you to kind of make a guess. If you're an office worker, I think it's a few percent, 2-3%. Okay, it's probably gonna cut it, that's fine. Okay, if if you are landscaping, that's gonna be a little tougher. You might be as high as 50%. Okay, something like that. So, okay, so we're just kind of we're taking a ballpark guess here, based on whatever your occupation is. Brandon, yours might be considered a little more dangerous too, right? Meat cutting and stuff, you're around equipment and saws and knives and blood and all that other good stuff, yeah. Heat and, yeah. Which now? Nope, just leave it blank. Yeah, just leave it blank. In fact, if you put anything up here, I think it might even change. It's kind of a funky program. There's something in there, so. Okay, so workers' comp here, we can put in 6%. I think you want to go ahead and put in the whole number. Normally 6% you'd put in as 0.06, but it's kind of already got it done for you, so you just put in the whole number 6% then in that case. Okay, everybody got that so far? Yep, yep, or full-time employee if you want, that's fine too, so. Okay, payrolls 1 through 3, then, what happens here? There is a change here that I'm gonna have you all make, because I've been too lazy, because every year I think I'm retired and then out. So I haven't changed the program, and I should, but here's the problem kind of with this program is that, so you got a part-time employee up here and they're gonna get a 10% increase, but it shows all their social security, Medicare, FICA, and state unemployment. It shows those all going up 20%, and that's not right. And so we need to do one of two things. You could either change this to 20% or whatever amount you want. 10% may be a bigger raise than you plan on giving your employees, right? So if maybe you want to change this to 5%, that's fine, okay? But then you need to come down here and change all these to 5% as well.
What if I do well in my second year and I have to hire 2 more employees?
Oh, that gets to be kind of interesting, doesn't it?
Well, we're just starting our business at payroll year 1, so I
Yeah.
hired 2 employees but me.
Yeah.
My second year, I'm
Yeah. What I do then is just change the percentage, make it, so if you're gonna add, let's say, one more employee at the same rate as the other one, then change that to 200%, right? Does that make sense? Here. Okay, so let me go here. So I'm gonna just change this to a 0 just because. Okay, so now I'm 15.6 in this, but in my third year, let's say I'm gonna hire one more additional employee that's gonna work the same number of hours. And I may not give them a raise, but that's, you can give them a raise too if you want. But if I go 100%, let's see what happens. Then I've got 2 employees, right? 31,200. Okay? If I want to give them a little raise too, I might go 110%. Does that make sense? Yeah. That's about the only way this program would let you add an employee there in that second or third year, is to go ahead and use a big percentage like that. Okay? So whatever, the point here that I'm making though is that whatever your percentage is here, it needs to be the same way for these first 4 down here. Okay? For year 2 and 3, yep. So if you want year 3 to just be 10%, it had a 30%, but maybe the program's assuming maybe you are gonna hire some additional employees or something, that's fine. But I don't want 30%, I'm only gonna do a 10% increase, right? Because I'm a cheap bugger. Okay. So I make those changes like that. Okay. Other than that, the payroll's pretty well kind of done for you, which is kind of nice, right? Well, this was just calculating an increase. It wasn't calculating, because right, if you go to the payroll over here, it's got the numbers right here, 6.2 and 1.45. Okay, so on the second year, this is just calculating what the increase is. That's why it has to be the same as what your increase is up here. Okay, so that's just calculating what the increase would be in your Social Security. Okay, so then the other thing you're going to work on for Thursday is going to be this, your operating expenses. This program does a really good job of outlining what those typical operating expenses might be. It's possible that there are some that would change. This is one place I would give you permission to change a white cell if, if, for example, you don't have any rent or lease of vehicles, but you got something else that's kind of different for your particular business, you could change the label. Yeah, I don't have any problems with changing the label, because that's not going to affect any formulas or anything. Okay, does that make sense? Okay. So on this, you just got to kind of go through. It tells you what the basic ones are, right? You're going to have advertising? Yeah, maybe. Okay. And maybe your advertising, you're going to budget $100 a month. Fine, put $100 in. Right? Grab it, drag it, boom. Okay. You might just want to do, $100 every quarter, whatever the case is. Okay. So, you could put it in every third month like that then or something. That's up to you. Kind of tell me. There's times I'm going to look at this though and say, yeah, that's not real practical. One thing that always gets left off, a lot of people leave it off, is supplies. I don't care what business you're in, you're probably going to need some supplies. You're going to need paper to send out bills. You're going to need ink for your printer. You're going to need, gasoline for your lawnmowers. You're going to need things like that, right? You're probably going to need some supplies, okay? So think those things through, okay? It might not be a lot of money, but you ought to consider that it should be some. Again, if you've got a seasonal business, these expenses might only occur, in those seasons, okay? Let's talk about the insurance, though, for a bit. Remember you had that prepaid insurance? And so basically, you've paid your insurance for the first year probably, okay? So what do I want you to do there is come out here to the 12th month on that insurance, wherever that line is, and put in maybe that same amount and maybe a little bit more. Does that make sense? Because you're not going to have to pay it monthly, but at the end of the year, you're going to have to pay for the next year. And so we kind of want that to show up. So if yours was 1,000, maybe you need to bump that up to 1,100 because insurance hardly ever goes down. contract labor, sometimes you guys might have some contract labor. Kind of depend, commissions, fees, car and truck expenses. Here again, if you're doing it, if you've bought a car, okay, you're gonna have some car and truck expenses, right? And that may be fairly consistent, but probably every 3 or 6 months, you're gonna have a little more because you might have some maintenance. Time to take it in and get the oil changed, time to take it in and do some of those things, right? Yeah. Yeah, yep. Now, the difference, a different way of showing that, if you're not buying a car, but you're gonna like be using your personal car for the business, then you would, your expense would be, I think we looked it up just the other day for, yeah, I was at my ski patrol thing. It's 62.5 cents is what the government allows, okay? So then you just estimate how many miles you're gonna do each month, that you're gonna be using your personal vehicle for business. Let's say it's 100 miles a month, you could put it in then, this is equal to 100 times 0.625. And then again, I could extend that out. There might be months that are more or less, and you guys could go through and change those if you want. Okay. Legal and professional, that's one that's probably not gonna be a monthly thing, but again, at the end of the year, you might have to pay somebody, or in April, you might pay somebody to do your taxes, right? Help with your taxes. Maybe. If you wanna do them yourself, that's fine, I don't have any problems with that. Licenses, if you're, special type of a business, you might have a license expense. Office expenses, yeah, I said supplies, but some of this could show up in office expense. Most of you will have some office expense. Again, you got paper, toner for your, ink things or whatever for your printers, you're gonna have some mailing. You're gonna have some things like that that are envelopes, it's gonna be a little bit of office expense, whatever that is. Your rent, if you're renting a location, that comes under here, the rent or lease other business property, okay? So if that's gonna be $500 a month or 600, that should be a fairly consistent number, right? Say it's $600 a month, so you do that, you drag it out, okay? Repairs and maintenance, most of you, if you have any vehicles or equipment, you're gonna have some repairs and maintenance. Again, it might be minor, but, I'd plug some in. Question, Colin, or just stretching a little? Okay. Supplies, like I said, if you got a location, you're gonna have toilet paper, paper towels, rags, whatever. Travels, meals, and entertainment, that's up to you. Utilities, if you've got a location, you're probably gonna be paying utilities, water, sewer, electrical, those types of things. Miscellaneous is just the catch-all, okay? Then you notice at the bottom, these are all white, so it's gonna take care of the rest of that for you. Okay. You might do a check. Okay, so my total monthly expenses here, and obviously I didn't fill in a lot of these, but just so I got 700, 666, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They're running about 600 a month, so 3,600. I might need to go back to my starting point and make sure that my working capital here is kind of in that ballpark. I mean, and give or take $1,000 or $2 is probably fine. It doesn't need to be precise by any means. If you're $500 off, don't worry about it. Okay, don't change it. If you're $1,000 off, and I mean, if your total expenses are only $1,000 and you're $1,000 off, then we need to talk about it, right? But keep it relative. Questions about those? Okay, a lot of you submitted the starting point, and that's great. You'll see that I gave you feedback. Make sure you read your feedback. Okay, if I have not given you a grade, you need to resubmit it. Okay, and that's going to be the case all along. Okay, and again, submit the whole workbook each time, because I got to go back and check, and I'll start every time. I'll open yours up. I'll start with the starting point again, take a look at it, make sure nothing's changed, and then I'll go through the various things and kind of take a look at them and make sure they look okay. So if I've given you feedback, it means that I've given you some comments and there's something that you need to change, and then you need to resubmit it to that same folder. Okay, the way I kind of grade these, I mean, eventually everybody's going to get this done. Okay, you'll finish project 1, week 7, somewhere around there. Okay, so eventually everybody's going to get it done. So, but that doesn't mean everybody gets 100%. So your timeliness of response and correcting things and getting those back to me is extremely important for your grading. How's that? So if I've given you some feedback, don't wait 3 or 4 weeks to correct it. Let's not be correcting it here at the middle of March. Let's get it kind of corrected. most often they're real small. I think one or two of you didn't have working capital. Ah, okay, well, I gotta go plug that number in. I gotta change what my source of funds is, make sure it still equals, resubmit, I'm done. Okay, so check them. You know, if you got questions, now, of course, during class is a perfect time to ask. So, okay, any other general questions? I'll come and get your specific questions, Mary Ann, here in a little bit, so. If not, I will turn you guys loose, because I took way more time today. So, and you guys got a couple